I died. But before I show you how I died and when, I decided to take us all the way back to where it started, the beginning. These are all of the days that were recorded in my third hardcore world, up until my death, gaining myself many lessons for YouTube and a community along the way. So without further ado, here are days 1 through 131. World 3, we're unfortunately here. It's okay though. I started by loading up the world, and I saw that jungle in the background. Then I just looked for anything that there might be. I saw that jungle kind of surrounding us, saw the plains, and then I just decided to punch the tree below me, because how else do you start a Minecraft world? I made myself some tools, an axe and a pickaxe, and then killed this sheep, killed this other sheep so I could use its wool, and then I went into the plains to get the third sheep, and then I pretty much immediately headed into the mines. Like, there was no hesitation. I grabbed a ton of iron, ton of coal, and I focused on the coal especially because I didn't want to worry about it like I had to in the last world. Then it was day 2 because I just realized it was night outside. So then I headed back into the mine pretty much straight away. Got some iron, got some gold, got some lapis, and then, I don't know, like most of this episode is literally just mining. And then I cooked up some iron while I was waiting. I checked if it was night, and it was, so now we're on day 3. I made a blast furnace so the iron would go faster, made myself a chest plate, and went pretty much right back to mining. I found a ton of coal and iron, like I said, and then I made myself a full iron set, a full shield, lapis, gold, and then I just headed further down into the mine. Got some redstone here and some iron. And then I checked if it was night, and it was again. So now it's day 4. Day 4, I started off by mining a little bit on my way up, but this cave was just endless. So I decided to head all the way out of the cave. And once I was up here, I was looking for a place to settle, and I saw that island on my left, and I thought that'd be a perfect base location. So I started heading over to it, and this island had everything that I needed. It had cows, it had sheep, it had pigs. It had chickens, exactly everything. So I just started off by getting a bunch of wheat seeds. Then I put my base on a kind of higher area of the island and then put his chest down so I could just leave all my stuff in it and not worry about it. Started excavating a little bit of the island and then went to bed. Day 5 started off by expanding the house a little bit. It's just temporary for now. And then I went down to the ocean and made myself a little farm, tilled it out. It had free water and I didn't have buckets yet, so I mean I could have made them, but I didn't. And then I excavated some more so I could expand the farm, and then I got rid of these little jungle trees that were all over, and then I made this little farm, just temporary, don't worry. It'd be cruel if I had just a bunch of chickens packed in there. Then it was the end of the day, so I got ready for the next 5 days. Day 6, it started off by planting some wheat seeds into the ground, and then I mined some oak trees so that I could expand the house a little bit more. Then I deforested a little bit of the island so that I could make a farm, let these chickens in, and deforested some more. Then I decided the chickens didn't need that big of an enclosure, so I made a smaller one and then deforested some more, and by the time it was the end of the day, so I just went to bed. Day 7 started off by excavating a little bit of the land so that I could expand the farm. I expanded the farm, planted some more wheat seeds, and then led the sheep into the bigger enclosure, and then led these cows into the second smaller enclosure because I just needed the space to shear the sheep in the future. Then I used the excess dirt to expand that area and finally went to go explore this nether portal. I got a golden apple out of it and these 2 gold blocks, which is really good. I've never seen 2 blocks at a nether portal. And then it was the end of the day. So then the next day started with some farming, expanding the farm, and putting fence posts in all the water just so it could act so I don't fall into the ocean when I fall into one of those holes. I redid the house a little bit, put the furnaces, the chest, and the crafting table into the ground. Then I laid out the outline for the house, put the stairs on every entrance of the house, planted some more wheat seeds, did the outline some more, and by that time it was the end of the day. The next day I worked on the outline some more, got some more chickens, and did the unthinkable by mining this type of tree. It still haunts me to this day, to be honest. Then I made a new enclosure for this pig, thinking that I could push him in, but today was not the day. Yeah, I'll get it another time, but I don't have carrots right now. And then I excavated some more and put the dirt back over the mine so I could not fall in one of these times, and went to go get sand for some glass. I smelted the sand and afterwards placed doors on all of the entrances. Then I deforested some more, and that was a lot of the day. And afterwards, it was basically the end of the day, so I went to bed. And then I went to go explore this mine finally. I found a lot of coal, iron, redstone, a lot of iron, and lapis, and you'll never get this, but I don't get what's the association with gold and lapis being next to each other all the time, but it's just a thing in my worlds. And then I look down and I see this mine shaft, and then I went swimming with some glow squids, mined this redstone, and then I was exploring the bigger cave. I haven't gone down there yet because I'm too scared at this point. And I saw that amethyst cave, so then I started heading up, and by that time it was the end of the day, so I placed down my bed and got ready for the next 5 days. Day 11, I started off with going and chopping down some trees. I really didn't even give them a chance, if I'm honest. Then I moved on to placing some glass panes around the house for some windows and working on the glass ceiling some more. Then I went to farming a little bit, and afterwards I bred some cows and some sheep and some chickens, but I didn't show that. Then I saw these pigs over here, so I tried to push them in again, and this time it actually worked. I got one of the pigs in, and then this other pig literally just walked itself in. It was so amazing. Then I went to the beach to get some more sand for some more glass, and I mined all the sand and then started smelting it, and by that time it was the end of the day. Day 12, I forgot to record, unfortunately, so day 13, I started filling over the cave so I don't fall in accidentally, worked on an outline for a lighthouse, and then worked on mining more cobblestone for the lighthouse. That was most of the day, to be honest, was just mining the cobblestone because there was a lot to be mined. Some coal there, and I was just going. I was just mining and mining and mining. And then I came out of the cave and worked on placing the walls and filling in the insides of the cave. And it was around this time where I realized, oh, it's probably dangerous for me to be this high up in a hardcore world without no water at the bottom. So I got down and worked on just excavating for the rest of the day. And then I went to bed and got ready for day 14, sorry. 14, I did forget to record again. So 15, I placed water at the bottom of the lighthouse. The walls are much higher at this point. Worked on building kind of a moat around the lighthouse, and I decided to go 2 blocks wide and then 3 blocks wide, and it was just a whole thing. Then I placed water around the lighthouse, and the water actually worked pretty well. Got some gravel so I could place it on all of the entrances, which I did. Place some stairs on all of the entrances so it looks better. And then I worked on filling in the cave some more, and I actually finished filling over the cave, so that's nice. Then I made an entrance for the cave and placed some torches so no mobs would spawn down there, because that's scary if they did, and I just walked down there, was a creeper waiting for me. And then I decided to explore this little crevice, realized how deep it goes, and just headed out of there, to be honest. Got some more cobblestone for the lighthouse, and I finished a layer, and then my pickaxe broke, so I headed out of the cave, and it was night. So I just placed down my bed and got ready for the next day. Day 16, I headed all the way out of the cave, then worked my way up the lighthouse, which honestly that middle part was a death trap. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't die, but it was just a death trap. I worked on building the walls, and that was a lot of the day. I just used all the cobblestone that I got, and then I worked on making a first floor. It was more just a safety net, so if I fell I wouldn't die right away. But it's nice. I'll keep it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'll keep it. Then I placed torches on the bottom and worked on the glass ceiling some more. And this was taking a lot of glass, I'm not going to lie, so I'm going to need some more. Got some wool, deforested a little bit more, except these are my own planted trees, so it's not that bad. And then I saw these pillagers out my window, and I didn't appreciate that, so I had to take care of them. There was no other way. Why are you on my island? So then I placed their banner on the lighthouse, and I'm hoping that eventually I can finish all of the sides with their banners. Then I farmed some more, and by that time it was really dark, so I went to bed. Day 17, I worked on placing torches, and this was only halfway through the day because I forgot to record the first half, and I worked on placing torches. I placed them 5 apart, and it took all of day 17 and all of day 18. It was a big project, and I didn't even finish it in these 2 days, so it was just a big project. Day 19 now, I worked on finishing the first floor, and then I worked on the second floor some more, and then I got some leaves to make around the moat. I thought I could make it look nice, and it kind of did look nice. Then I worked on the third floor, and yeah, after that it was really dark, so I went to bed, took care of the creepers that spawned that night, and then went ahead and was back to placing torches. And I didn't even finish it again. This is day 20 now, and I still haven't finished it, so hopefully I'll finish it soon. Day 21 started with me placing torches, but it also ended with me placing torches. I told you guys this is going to be a long project. Day 22, started with me placing torches, but it also ended with me placing torches. I didn't even finish that day. Day 23, I finally finished placing torches. That was the last torch I had to place. I was so happy. Then I went straight to farming, replanted, and then bred the chickens, the sheep, the cows, and it was night. So then I just looked around in my house, make sure no mobs were spawning, and there were none. I was so happy. And then I just looked around, made sure no mobs were spawning, and then I sheared sheep in the middle of the night because I just could. And then I went to the top of the tower, looked around, and made sure no mobs were spawning, and there were none. I was so happy. It was so cool to see my island just lit up in the sea of darkness around it. Like, I was just so proud of myself, to be honest. And then I used the dropper to get down, and afterwards I went to bed because I was still scared. Day 24, I built up the sides of the tower, and then I built a new floor on the tower, went over across the river, got some bamboo, got some melons, and planted some of the bamboo, made some scaffolding so I could build the tower a little bit, and then I started excavating the bottom, and then I built into the tower with all the cobblestone that I got. I built it a little, like pretty much a little bit higher, and then I did some excavating so that I could fill in this crevice over here. And then I headed into the mine and made a better staircase, and by the time I came up, it was day. So that means now we're on day 25. 25, I built over this part of the cave so that I could make a little entrance into it. And then I headed into the ocean and got stung by Mrs. Pufferfish over here. I don't know what I did to her. And then I made a water elevator, and then I headed further into the mine. Got some gold, got some iron, got some lapis, and then I got some magma blocks from this underwater part of the cave, which was pretty cool. I needed them. And then I tested if it was night. I went to bed, so it was. Day 27 is gone, unfortunately, but that was all of day 26. Day 28 was all spent in the mine, though, so I was just going to skip over that. Day 29 is also gone, so this is day 30. I made some kelp blocks for some furnace fuel, and then I did some shearing sheep, flattened out an area, and started flattening this area over here. I worked into the night and got ready for the next 10 days, honestly. Day 31, we made it. This is now the longest standing hardcore world that we've had on the channel, which is amazing. Anyways, I started off with flattening, and then I got to do some farming, replanted, then bred all the sheep, bred all the cows, and then afterwards I got back to flattening this side over here, and I just flattened all through the night. Afterwards, I made a sugarcane farm, and then I started getting some wood to make fences to put inside of the sugarcane water so I don't fall into the ocean on accident. I made a cocoa bean farm, and then I made this area look more natural than it already did. By day day 33, I was flattening this area even more, and I even flattened over this, and then I went to bed. Afterwards, I kept flattening in the morning, and it was just a lot of flattening. That's all I gotta say. It was just a lot of digging and then placing, just making it look super unnatural. And then I got some wood and expanded my cocoa bean farm a little bit, and then I went to bed. Afterwards, I started building a barn on day 35. I built 2 pens as an outline to start, and then I got some more wood, and then I started building up the sides, and then I decided that it needed a 3rd pen in the back, so I did that, got some more wood, and then I started building up the sides. I even destroyed this type of tree just to get rid of it, and it haunts me to this day, to be honest. And I didn't even get all the wood because there's still a floating part there. Anyways, and then I made some hoppers and some chests to make that the chicken area. Got some more wood in the morning, started fencing in the pens, and I decided to split this back one into 2 pens because there's no need for one to be that big. And then I went to bed. Afterwards, I got some more wood in the morning, and then I led all the chickens into the farm. It was so funny to watch them all follow me, and their legs don't even move because they just can't. It is so funny. And then watching them all flood into the pen right here is the literal best thing I've ever seen in Minecraft. It is so funny. And then after all that, I bred all the chickens, and then it was the cows' turn, so I grabbed my wheat and started leading them into the farm. And they were harder to get into the farm just because they kept pushing me around. Like you can see right here, I literally struggled even trying to get out of the pen to get all of their attention. But then it was the sheep's turn, and they had the same problem, kind of. It was harder to push them or to make them follow me without them pushing me around. Like, I'm not even touching my keyboard right here, and they're just moving me. Anyways, watching them all flood in is also really funny to me. But then afterwards, I bred all the sheep, bred all the cows again, and then I made this area on the side so that I could access the chicken chests. And I made it, I don't know, like the eggs were already flowing into the building. So that was really nice. Then I made it look a little better, explored this underwater cave that the pond that was in that area was connected to, and then I just placed some more stairs, and then I connected this farm to the smaller farm. But then this pig just walked over there, so I just made it smaller again and started getting rid of these fences. The day 40 was now coming up, and it was now day 40 because the sun came up. So then I made some ladders so that I would have to stop opening the fence. I had this brilliant idea, and it worked. So now I don't have to risk them escaping every time I go into there. Then I sheared all the sheep, did the same with the cows, did the same with the chickens, did the same with this empty pen that I had that I don't know what I'm going to put in there yet. And then I started redoing the torches so it looked a little nicer. Then I started building up the tower on the sides. Realized that the tower is actually kind of getting pretty big, which is nice. And then I just used the dropper to get down because it's just fun and I like living life on the edge and almost dying. Then this is my first time ever using scaffolding, so don't judge me, but I jumped and shift clicked to place more because I did not know how it worked. Afterwards, I farmed some sugarcane and planted some so I could get more. Then I expanded it a little bit and harvested some poppies and some yellow flowers to make dye out of so I could dye the sheep. And then it was the end of the day and I just got ready for the next 10 days. Day 41 through 50. We're almost halfway to 100. The day started off with me breeding all the sheep and then breeding all the cows, and then I worked on building a bridge from the mainland to my island. I fenced it off so no mobs would get in, and then I placed torches so no mobs would spawn in the little enclosure, and then I deforested the entire day. It was a lot of deforesting. Then the next morning, I got back to more deforesting and made some more jungle fences so that I could continue the path. Anything in the way had to go, like I said, so there was just a lot. And then on the way back, I saw this parrot, so of course I had to tame it. I got him on my shoulder, and then I took him in the house and sat him down, and that's where he will stay for a very long time, I promise you. And then I replanted all my oak trees and did some farming and replanted. And then I bred all the chickens, bred all the sheep, bred all the cows, and by that time it was the end of the day, or it was well into the night, so then I went to bed. Afterwards, I replaced the dirt at the bottom of the path with some wood because it just looks nicer and it is more visually appealing. And then I made some more fences so that I could continue expanding the path. Went to bed, and then the next morning continued the path. Anything in the way, like I said, has to go. So I just got rid of a lot of wood and a lot of trees had to go. Then it was the end of the day, so then the next morning I bred all the sheep again, and then I got some more sugar cane, got some milk so that I could make a cake, and I didn't have the ingredients. Then I realized that I had a pink sheep, which was pretty sick. Then I worked on expanding the tower with wool more, and this design I didn't even like because then I tore down the strips closest to the stairs and replaced it with yellow wool because the full red tower didn't really look nice. And then on the inside I used the light gray wool to make this little design happen. And then I went to go shear the sheep, and then I realized that the sheep probably need dirt and grass to be able to make more wool. So then I took out all my anger on these cows and got some leather so that I could make some books. I didn't have paper, so I just put all of the beef into the smelter, got some sugar cane so that I could make paper and then make books. Then I replanted my oak trees that I cut down the day before, did a little bit of farming, and made a cake. I placed down the cake and decided that this entire layer was going to be all one big giant cake. It would be pretty sick. Then I went to bed. Next morning, deforesting. No more trees on my island. So anything in the way had to go. Just kept continuing expanding the path. It was just a long process of just cutting down the trees and then working all through the night and then cutting down more trees and then placing all of this fences and these jungle blocks. And I got to this river and had to cut down more trees. And then a wandering trader with terrible trades appeared below me, and because of his terrible trades, I had to get rid of him. He should have had better trades next time. And then even despite these alpacas spitting at me, I still let them so that I could put them into this little enclosure right here, and I was just dodging their spit the entire way. I grabbed the leads and left them. And this time I was working so far into the night that zombies spawned and were attacking me, which hasn't happened in quite a while. So then I kept expanding the bridge until I ran completely out of fences. The alpacas lost their attitude and stopped attacking me. And then I sheared all the sheep and continued the design on the inside. I continued placing red wool on the outside as well, and the pink wool design right here. Replaced the banner, and then decided to outline the light gray wool with gray wool. And then I made some more golden apples just to make sure I don't die, and led these sheep into this enclosure so that they could regain their wool. And I was going to make those sheep yellow and red sheep. Then I bred all the cows, headed into the mine, worked until this pickaxe broke, and then I made a new pickaxe, and then worked until that pickaxe broke, headed out of the mine, and failed to use scaffolding again, unfortunately. And then I kind of figured out how scaffolding worked. Like, I figured out that you could place it by looking at it. I tried to do a time lapse of the sunrise right here, and it just didn't work because it was raining. I was so mad. It would have been pretty cool. So then I decided to use the chopper to get down and then harvest more oak trees so that I could work on this layer and make a new layer. After finishing the layer, I worked on building up the tower even more, and then used the dropper to get down. It'll never not be fun. Replanted all the oak trees, and then turns out I had 2 yellow sheep trapped in there. So I decided to divide the enclosure into 2 so that I could put the red sheep in the other side. Got another sheep, got some poppies so that I could dye them red, and also some wheat so that I could breed them. And then I went to the top of the tower and a skeleton dropped on my head. It was terrifying, so of course I had to place torches so that never happens again. Used the dropper to get down, started flattening a little bit and expanding over here in front of the tower. And this time I could actually do a montage, and I just got ready for the next days. Bye! Day 51. I started day 51 off by farming the sugarcane, and then I did the farming of the wheat and replanted. Afterwards, I used the seeds to breed all the chickens, bred the colored sheep, and then I went to the mine and started mining downwards. My plan was to make like a rectangle type of shape, and it was just a lot of just mining out and carving out all of this cobblestone. And I checked if it was night, and it was. So day 52, I started off by mining, headed out of the mine, and the entire day was mining, so that I just made a time lapse of the sunset because it looked cool. And then day 53, I finally learned how to use scaffolding. I built up to the top of the tower with it, or the lighthouse, and built up with all the cobblestone that I had, and then I used the dropper to get down. It'll never not be fun. And then I headed back down into the mine, was mining out the rectangle some more. I finally hit deep slate and found diamonds. It is my first diamonds in this world. It is about time because it is day almost 60. And then I headed out of the mine, and it was night. By the next day, I bred all the sheep, then sheared them, placed the wool on the tower, and headed back into the mine. I kept mining out the rectangle, and I finally made it to the cave that I had before. And I would have kept mining, but this skeleton trick shot at me over here. So then I headed back into the caves, and I saw some diamonds over there. I had to take care of the zombie. But then I headed into the larger cave, and there was so many mobs, so I had to bail out, and I went back and held them at like a choke point. And then I went back into the cave and kept fighting the mobs and kept trying to place torches slowly. And then I found this lone diamond on a pillar, went back, got the diamond that I just skipped over before, and there was a few of them. And then the next time I went, or a few feet later, there was another diamond, and then more diamonds, and so I got all of those. And then I checked if it was night, and it was, which means it is now day 54. Day 54, I went back into the larger cave and was just clearing out all the mobs so that I could go place more torches. And I was just placing torches, running around, hopefully not to get killed. Like, there's diamonds right there, but I couldn't even get them because there was a large train of zombies behind me. So then I headed out of the mine and made a pickaxe first with my diamonds and then headed over to the broken nether portal to get some obsidian. I got just enough obsidian to make an enchantment table and a nether portal, and then I headed back to the island and went to bed. Next day I made an enchantment table, made some bookshelves, and placed down the bookshelves in my lighthouse on the third floor. And also the enchantment table. Then I went back, got some lapis, and got an efficiency 2 pickaxe, a power 2 book, and a prot 1 book. Then I made 23 more books after I got some leather, made some more bookshelves, and then chopped down trees. No more trees on my island actually this time. I got an efficiency 4 book and an breaking 2 book, and I put them both on my pickaxe. And then afterwards hold on, there's the efficiency 4 and the breaking 2, and then afterwards I made a ton of torches, headed back into the mine, just looked over the big cave, and while I was in the big cave just ran around placing more torches, and then I went to bed. Afterwards I went back to just mining through the caves. I found a lot of iron just so I could do all of use it later in maybe a beacon or something. I found a mob spawner, found a slime back there, by the way. I just took the cords. But that mob spawner, more diamonds, got the diamond, there was only one. And then I went exploring through the mine shafts. I found another mob spawner and another one, and this one had a saddle, which is really good because that is really what I needed. Then I found even another one, but it was a cave spider spawner, so I just ran away. I took note of the cords. And then I found more diamonds. This was a pretty big vein. And then I found this vein right here, and this was a huge vein. There were 10 diamonds in this one vein of diamonds. I was so excited. Then this mine cart had some name tags and other things that I needed. I decided to get some rails, and then I swam up this waterfall, found a diamond, found another saddle in this minecart and a bunch of more rails, and then I headed towards the exit. After I got out of the exit, I went to bed again, and then I headed out. Afterwards I made myself a full set of diamond armor because I had 21 diamonds or something like that, and then I got some more leather, made 29 books, and started placing the rails throughout my path that I made. I headed back after I did that and got an efficiency 4 book and a power 5 book, which is a hard choice because I could get efficiency 5 on my pickaxe on one hand, and on the other hand I could use it for power 4, but I decided to use it on my pickaxe and prot 1 on my boots. So then I headed out and went to bed. Day 60 now, I headed into the mine, continued mining out the rectangle, and found even more diamonds. There's so many diamonds in this episode. I was so excited. I was just a lot of mining and just clearing out this rectangle. I even mined into one of the mob spawners that I found before, and then I finally hit bedrock. Once I hit bedrock, I made this pool area, and then I ended the recording, and I don't know why, so I just got ready for the next 10 days, and I'll see you then. Day 61. I started by filling these buckets with water so that I could go down into the mine. I used the water to get down, and while I was waiting for the water to clear out, I started strip mining. I strip mined for quite a while, and I ran into some diamonds on my left here, and there were only 2 of them, but hey, diamonds are really just diamonds. They'll always be valuable. So then I kept strip mining and then went to bed. So the next morning I headed back to the pool and started filling it with the water, and then I headed out of the mine, made a ton of torches, went to the mob spawner so that I could make an XP farm out of it. I mined out the sides, and I built it too low the first time. Actually, I broke it and they just died on impact, so then I had to raise it a little bit, and it worked that time. It didn't give much XP because it's a spider spawner, but I made a few tweaks and just farmed it for a little bit. Headed out of the mine and realized it was night, so I just went to bed in the mine. And then I realized that 3 diamonds don't even fix your pickaxes all the way, so I just made a pickaxe, and it also costs less to repair, which is so wild to me. Then I kept mining and eventually decided to turn around back towards the pool. Really all I found on the way back was some gold, and once I made it back to the pool, I kept mining. I made a new strip mine, and I just kept going. Then I went to bed. First few days are really just mining, and I ran into some more diamonds here. There were 2 of them again. Some more gold, and this diamond was by itself. It was so sad, but it's okay because, like I said, diamonds are diamonds. This one had 3 in its vein, and I just kept mining. Like I said, a lot of the episode is just mining. And then I found some more gold and had some waterfall on my head, so I went and explored that, and there was a skeleton waiting for me to shoot me. So then I grabbed some redstone, some lapis, some gold, and ran into some more diamonds. There were 6 diamonds in this one, which was really good. I found another another mob spawner, and this one was a zombie spawner, which would be really good for XP. So then I grabbed the saddle and the horse armor out of its chest and headed back to the surface. Once I got up there, I did some farming, replanted, farmed, bred all the chickens, bred everything else too, I just didn't show it. And then I saw these parrots, so of course I had to tame them and lead them back to base. Once I got them back there, I went to bed, and the next morning I went exploring on a boat. I was trying to find anything, and I found this pillager tower, which is really cool, and then I found the shipwreck below me, so I swam down there and grabbed everything from it. It didn't have that many things, it just had this buried treasure map, which I will explore in a minute. And then I went closer to the pillager tower and saw this ocean monument, not even that far from the pillager tower, because I was just so lucky right here. And I didn't go any closer because there was a guardian like not too far, so then I headed back and I found the other half of the shipwreck and a sea turtle. I found some carrots in this shipwreck, which is really good because I really needed them to breed some pigs. This buried treasure map was the same as the other one, and I headed to this other ocean monument type of thing and grabbed the sea lanterns from it. Then I found another shipwreck, a full one in this one, and had some emeralds in it, and nothing else really of value, just some more carrots, and that treasure map was the same as the other ones. So then I headed to find the chest, and by the time I was there, it was night, so I just went to bed. Then I found the chest. It had some emeralds, the heart of the sea, and a water breeding potion for 3 minutes, which is really good. So then I went on land, and I just started exploring. I was heading towards that mountain, and while I was on top of the mountain, I saw this village, which is really good. I will use them for enchantments. I got some more pumpkins from the top of the mountain, and then I headed back to my boat and then headed back to my base. Once I got back to base, I deposited everything, planted the carrots, and went to bed. The next morning, I didn't record it, but I cut down a ton of trees so I could do this project, which is building a bridge from my island to the mainland towards the village. It was a lot of wood that I went through, but I actually got enough the first time that I mined stuff, so then I just built the bridge all through the night, and there was even a lightning storm, and it hit the bridge because you can see that light over there, but since it was raining, everything was fine. Then I finally reached the other side of the island, went to bed, and got ready for the next 10 days. Day 71! The day started off with me running around trying to find a horse to tame, and I found 2, which was really lucky because I did not search for long, but they both have bad HP, so I headed over to these black horses that I also saw, and this HP was really good on this horse. So I tamed him, headed back to base, and started filling in the gaps on where I left it only 3 blocks wide instead of 4 blocks wide on the bridge, made a diamond sword, and then I headed to the bridge and started placing torches 6 blocks apart from each other so that no mobs would spawn on the bridge. I worked through the night, and once I finished, I went to bed. The next morning, I ran towards the village. I think I was going to go explore it, but then I saw this donkey, and I just turned around. I don't know why. I should have just gone through with it. Then I made this bow and this fishing rod and started carving out this area for another portal, but about halfway through, I realized that I didn't even have enough obsidian to do the nether portal, so I headed to the broken nether portal and grabbed some more obsidian. I finished the portal, and then I went to bed. The next morning, I didn't waste any time. I just lit the portal and hopped straight into it. The spawn wasn't the best, but it wasn't the worst. It was just a little crowded was all, and that was just a little annoying to me. So then I got some soul sand with what was left of my shovel, and afterwards I worked on getting some glowstone from the ceiling. And then I saw this guy to the side, and I just had to take care of him. He was shooting at me. I don't know what else to do. I mined the quartz out of the ceiling, and then saw these 2 next to each other, and I just had to take care of them because they would have killed me if I didn't. So then I started exploring, marking my path with cobblestone back to the portal, grabbed some more quartz. I was just getting the quartz for mostly levels, and then I headed back to base. Once I got back to base, I started replacing the torches with some glowstone. I hope to do this to the entire base because the torches are kind of lagging me. I got prot 4 legs, which was really lucky, and I saw I could get prot 3 on my chest, got a silk touch book, got an unbreaking 2 book, got an unbreaking 1 book, and then it was night outside, so I went to bed. The next morning, I went straight back to the nether. I started marking my path with deep slate as well because I had way more of that than I did of cobblestone to waste, and then I just kept getting quartz so I could get levels, ran into a bunch of these guys, kept getting glowstone so I could replace those torches, and I just kept exploring. Then eventually I went back to my base and went to bed. The next morning I was back in the nether grabbing some more glowstone, grabbing some more quartz for some more levels, and then I headed out of the nether. I started replacing the torches with glowstone again, and I replaced 55 blocks worth. Like I said, I want to do the whole island, so that wasn't a ton, but it was a lot. lot. And then I enchanted this sword with sharpness 4, and it had knockback 2 and unbreaking 3 with it, which was really cool. I enchanted a few more books with some other stuff, and then I put fire aspect on my sword as well. Made another pickaxe and enchanted that, or repaired my pickaxe, put lure 1 on my fishing rod, and then I headed over to the sheep farm and started killing these red sheep because I needed these sheep to disperse and actually start growing wool instead of just being naked. Then I headed back into the nether, started mining some more quartz and exploring, looking for another fortress. I tried to use a strider, but I've never used them before, so I had to look it up, and I just realized that I needed a warp on a stick, which I did not have, so I just took the L. I killed this ghast, I found the warp that I needed, the fungi, and then I found this warp biome, which was sick. I decided it was time to head back to the overworld, and once I got back, I crafted all of the quartz that I had into blocks. Then I started replacing more of the torches with glowstone. Then I enchanted some more of my books, and I actually got Luck of the Sea on my fishing rod. Then it was raining, which was really good, because if you don't know that, it gives you an increased chance to catch things while it's raining. So I fished all through the night until it stopped raining in the morning, and once it stopped raining, I ended up with just a few saddles and nothing really else special except for this power 3 bow. And then I deforested a little bit, went to bed. Next morning, got some deep slate, replanted all the trees, made a shield, and then headed back into the nether. I farmed a bunch of quartz and started just exploring, getting some more glowstone, killing some of these guys, and while I was getting shot by 2 ghasts, I killed this one and ran away from the other one because I was really scared. I found this basalt biome, and I saw this nether portal at the bottom, so of course I just started heading down to it. There's these 2 magma blocks just protecting it, and I only got 1 magma cream from them. This chest actually had some glistening watermelons, which was really nice, and I carried what I could, and then I grabbed this block of gold at the top and started heading out and started heading back. I actually killed this ghast with its 1 fireball, which was really sick. I headed back, made some quartz blocks, deposited all of my items, and then I replaced some more glowstone, or some more torches with some glowstone. Got prot 3 on my chest, aqua infinity on my helmet, prot 2 on my boots, prot 4 on my, unbreaking on a lot of my armor, power 4 on this bow, and I started getting some feathers so that I can make arrows. Then once I left the barn, it was the next morning, so I just got ready for the next 10 days. Day 81! I started the day off by heading into the mine and mining some gravel so that I could use it for some flint. I headed out of the mine, placed down all my gravel, and then mined it all, and then placed it all down, and then mined it all. I did this until I had about 32 flint from it, made it all into arrows, and then afterwards headed back into the mine. I placed down my bed in the mine before I went all the way down and went to bed. Then I jumped all the way down to the pool, farmed the spider spawner for a little bit, and then made a new strip mine. I actually mined straight into some diamonds, and there was 8 of them, which was really lucky. So then I kept mining, ran into 2 more diamonds, and then another 2, and headed out of the mine. Then I went to the big cave to place some more torches and clear it out some more. I fought a lot of mobs, but then this vein down here had another 2 diamonds for me, which was nice. And then I headed to this little crack in the wall and found 1 diamond and then 8 diamonds, which was really sick. So then I killed this slime that I saw in my cave and another slime that I saw, headed all the way out of the mine, and went to bed. Next morning, I made a warp fungus on a stick so I could use it on striders, and then I turned all the sugarcane into paper, made some more bookshelves, and saw that I could get feather falling 4, so I took my books out and made sharpness 2. Then I headed into the nether to farm for it, saw the strider, so I built out to it, and I traveled this entire lava lake and also fell into the lava because I accidentally pressed shift, so I had to eat. And then I traveled the entire lava lake, couldn't find any nether fortresses anywhere, which was so unfortunate. So then I had to head over to the next lava lake, but before, I accidentally fell into the lava again by pressing shift, so I chugged 1 golden apple, or 2 golden apples, got my saddle back from the strider, headed over to the other lava lake to the left of the portal this time, got on this strider, and not so far from the portal, I actually found another fortress, which was really lucky. I put my strider in this little pillar and then built up to the portal. Then I killed this blaze, killed some wither skeletons, and then found some nether wart, and this chest had 3 diamonds and a saddle, which was really lucky. I found a lot of saddles, some horse armor, and then while I was building over, I actually got knocked into the lava by that skeleton. So thank goodness there was this little area here, but I ate some golden apples and built up on this area so that I could survive. It was really nerve-wracking, but I had a bunch of golden apples, thank goodness. Then I decided it was time to head home, so I headed home and Once I got back, it was raining, so I fished for a long while, deposited all of my items in the house, and then headed back into the nether. I started building this hub for the nether, and I made it out of quartz, shroomlights, and deep slate. And once I finished the design, I started this 2x2 little path on the side of the wall, and I just continued building that out for a while. After I did all that, I decided it was time to head back, so I made another 2x2 going down this time to find some netherite. And once I got down to the exact level that I was planning on going down, I actually found netherite, which was really, really lucky. I made another 2x2 path down there and kept mining it out until my pickaxe almost broke, smelted the netherite, and then made a new pickaxe. I realized that it was going to cost 33 levels to re-enchant it, so I sat at the farmer for a while. Didn't even get that many levels, but once I came out of the mine, it was raining for a long while, so I just kept fishing for a long while. Then I saw how much that sweeping edge enchantment would cost on my sword, and then I went to bed. Next morning, headed back into the nether so I could mine some quartz. I mined a ton of quartz for some levels and killed this enderman over here by this warp forest. And once I hit level 33, I headed back home, repaired my pickaxe, and went to bed. Next morning, sheared all the sheep and got some wood, and hopped on my horse, saw this wandering trader on my island, which had no good trades, so then I hopped back on my horse and headed towards the village. Once I got to the village, I tamed this cat, and nothing else really, I just headed back. I sat the cat down in my house, started building up the tower some more, and went to bed and got ready for the next 10 days. Day 91. We're almost at day 100, so bear in there. But day 91 started with me heading back to the village and then making this villager into a librarian where I could trade paper and emeralds. So then I headed back home, farmed all of my sugarcane, turned it into paper, headed back to the village and traded my paper for emeralds with this librarian, which I didn't realize at the time locked my trades with the villager. So I was very confused as to why even after getting rid of the lectern, he was still a librarian. So just to make sure there was nothing else I could do after running out of ideas, I just ended up going to bed. The next morning, I grabbed this brewing stand as well as this grindstone. I put this villager into a boat and unsuccessfully tried to get him into a building. Eventually, I got this villager that was already in a building into a boat and tried to get a mending trade with him while also passing up really good trades like looting 3. But eventually, we got mending and the villager sprinted out the door once he had the chance, so I ended the day to make sure he wouldn't die. Then I blocked him into this building and I checked what this wandering trader had to offer. It had some good trades, but nothing I could afford right now, so then I headed back to my mending villager and found that because the lectern was far away for such a long time, it lost its mending trade. I trapped it back in the same building, however, and after a lot of trading, I got mending back, which was really lucky. Then I went back and ended the day. The next morning, I started building a path to connect these two houses so that I could get 2 villagers in the same building, and after luring this villager in here and trapping him in here, I gave the villagers bread and placed down a 3rd bed while I watched from the corner and they made a baby villager. Then I headed back home, planted sugarcane along the island, and then the next day I started off with fishing for a while, where I got a good bow and a mending fishing rod, but then I just kept fishing for even past that because I got a lot of XP from it. Afterwards, I made a power 5 bow and flame bow, and then I headed to bed. The next morning, I tried to get as much sugarcane as possible, headed back to the village, bred the villagers again by giving them some more bread, then broke down this path that was connecting the 2 houses, and by the end of that, I went to bed again. The next morning, I came across these 2 villagers stuck in this hole, so I got them out of it. Then I mined this hay and used it to trade with this farmer villager. I bought my first mending book. I traded some more with this farmer, but regardless, I didn't have enough emeralds for another one, so I headed back home. I put mending on my helmet and then went to bed. The next day, I headed back to the village, traded with this farmer even more, and bought my 2nd mending book. Afterwards, I headed home again and realized that putting mending on my pickaxe would be too expensive, and unfortunately, the only way to fix that is to de-enchant it all the way, so that's what I did. So then I put mending on the pickaxe and efficiency 3. I farmed all the sugarcane again, made it all into paper, sheared the sheep, named this name tag Chicken, and put it on one of my parrots outside. Then I went to bed. The next morning, I headed back to the village where I traded more paper, bred the villagers again, and then headed back. Once I got back, I headed straight into the nether and used the bed method to find more netherite, but after doing this for a while, I had no success. Although it is definitely 100% way more efficient to use the bed method. I headed back home, deposited all of my stuff, and then sheared the sheep again, worked on building this one to commemorate 100 days.
What do you think of that?
And then afterwards headed to this tower so I could do a design with like half yellow wool, half red wool. I ran out of red wool, so I had to shear the sheep some more. Made the time lapse of the sun because it just looked cool. And then I spent the rest of the night waiting for more sheep to grow and shearing them. And during this time, I also just want to thank you guys for 180 subscribers. That means I have doubled my subscriber count since I started making these Minecraft World series. So I am incredibly thankful for that. Thank you for everyone who has liked the videos, commented, subscribed, everything, watched it in general. And then I finally tried to finish it with the wool that I got, but I didn't have enough, so I panicked because the next day was starting. So I headed downstairs, grabbed the rest of the red wool, finished the wool, and then headed to the top of the staircase where I just looked into the sky and got ready for the next 100 days. Day 101. The day started off with farming a little bit, replanting everything, turning all of my sugarcane that I got into paper, making a diamond axe, putting efficiency 2 on the axe, and then heading to the village. But then I had to turn around because I realized I forgot all of my emeralds, so I got all the emeralds and started heading back towards the village. Once I got there, after traveling there through the night, I woke up this villager and traded all of my paper for emeralds with him. Then I bought another mending book. I woke up this villager and traded all of my wheat with him, and went to bed. The next morning, I bred all the villagers and headed back home. Once I got home, I put mending on my boots and started chopping down trees in this area of the mainland, which took the entire day. So once I was done, I went back to bed. And the next morning, I started by chopping down more trees, which also took the entire day, so then I went to bed again. The next morning, I started by chopping down trees again, but afterwards, I started to build this little villager house. I headed back to the village, put this villager into a boat, and started boating him home, but it was getting dark, so I went to bed before I did anything else. Once I got him home, I trapped him in the house and made him into a librarian. I headed back to the village, put another villager into a boat, and boated him into the river. But once I got home, I destroyed the slab, and this villager sprinted out the door.
We're done when I say we're done.
I don't know what's up with villagers and trying to get themselves killed, but they really need to chill. Then I panicked and went to bed. The next morning I killed this creeper that spawned. I started to make a new system to get the villagers into the building. Blocked up the old entrance, put this villager into a boat again, and had to revise the system a little bit. But once I got it to work, I boated this villager in and finally got him to float up. He almost drowned though, I'm not gonna lie, but it's okay. I put this villager into a boat and tried to do the same with him, but this one gave me way less trouble because he just floated straight up. Then I had to pass up this infinity enchantment, which really hurt my soul because I really needed it. I did a little bit more farming, turned all the wheat that I got into bread, and bred the villagers again. I expanded the villager house more, put torches on the roof so no mobs would spawn. I destroyed this wall that was on the inside and then put torches on the inside so no mobs would spawn, and went to bed. The next day I kept trying to get a mending enchantment, and after not that long I actually got it, which is really nice. I headed into the nether where I killed this enderman and mined a ton, and I mean a ton of quartz. I did it so that I could get my boots to full durability again, and once they were, I killed these pigs and headed back home. I made a composter and farmed everything, replanted everything, then headed into the villager's house. I woke up this villager to make him into a farmer and kept trying until I finally got a wheat trade. Once I did, I traded all of my wheat for emeralds. Then I woke up this villager to buy a mending book. I put mending on my chest plate, sheared all the sheep, and then went to bed. The next morning, I farmed all of the sugarcane that was around my island, made it all into paper, headed back to the villager's house, and realizing that this villager that I turned into a librarian did not have a paper trade. So I had to head back to the other village, and once I got there, I traded all of my paper for emeralds with this villager, who is definitely scamming me for mending books, by the way. And then I turned these wheat blocks that I found into wheat and traded them with this farmer. Afterwards, I got back on my horse and took a little detour to the pillager tower over here. Once I got here, I fought all the pillagers that I could, looked at these allays, but I didn't grab them yet. But just since the pillagers kept spawning so much, I went into the tower and held them at this little choke point right here. And after a while, I headed to the top and grabbed everything out of the chest. Then I realized that the pillagers count as monsters, so I can't sleep there, hopped back on my horse and headed all the way back home. Once I got home, I went to bed right away. I deposited everything in this chest in the morning that I got from my adventure, sheared all my sheep again, and started to kill sheep so that more gray wool could spawn. Afterwards, I made another lectern, bred all the villagers again, and started to follow this tutorial to make a piglin farm, which at the beginning I thought was for XP and a zombie piglin farm, but it was actually one for bartering and trading with piglins. After I realized I put everything into this chest and would build it later. Then I started fishing, and I got a bow with power 4, another saddle, an efficiency 4 book, and by that time it was the end of the day, so I just got ready for the next 10 days. Day 111. I started off by clearing out my inventory a little bit, made another pickaxe, put Silk Touch on it, and dropped down into the mine. I used my Silk Touch pickaxe to get this gold ore. I headed into the nether and used this area to build the piglin trading farm that I was planning to build. I had to head back home to grab some more deep slate. Once I finished it, the last step was to lead a piglin in, so I tried leading this archer piglin in, but that wasn't working, so after a little while, I killed him and tried to lead this piglin with a sword in, managed to punch him into the farm, collected a stack of gold, named this name tag and this piglin, and started to farm it. After farming the whole stack, all I really got was these boosts with Soul Speed 3, a fire resistance potion, and these spectral arrows.
You are done. Fired.
Then I went to bed. Day 113, I started by farming, and afterwards I traded all the wheat that I got for some emeralds. I used these emeralds to buy another mending book, deposited some stuff that was in my inventory into these chests, and then I headed into the tower and put mending on my leggings, which completed my entire set of mending, and also put efficiency 4 on this pickaxe. Then I worked on turning this villager into a librarian and getting some good trades from him, and after a while I actually got fortune 2 for 11 emeralds, which was definitely worth it. I farmed all the sugarcane, turned it into paper, traded it for some emeralds, and made some bread, went to bed, and bred the villagers. The next morning, I headed back into the nether and started looking for some quartz to mine so that I could fix the durability on my pants. I also got glowstone with my Silk Touch pickaxe, and then I got this achievement for exploring all of the nether biomes, which was really cool.
Damn. Here we go again.
After killing some endermen and healing my pants all the way, I headed down into the netherite mine. I made a bunch of beds and used them to start mining for some netherite. After a while, I actually did end up mining into some, and then I headed back home. Once I got back home, I worked on replacing more torches with glowstone and farmed all the sugarcane, turned it into paper, woke up this villager and traded all of my paper with him for some emeralds. Then I used the emeralds to buy a fortune 2 book and put it on my pickaxe. The next day, I started by shearing all of the sheep. I had to kill some more in the gray wool pen and headed back into the nether. I turned the wool into some beds and tried to blow up this bed without any wall in between us and almost died.
You don't want to be like this.
Which was really scary because I got down to 1 heart from it. I kept mining though. I found some more netherite and some more and even more. And once I ran out of beds, I headed back home. I actually had to come out with 7 netherite. I made a smithing table, made 2 netherite ingots, upgraded my pants, and then my chestplate. I made a diamond shovel, I made more golden apples, and put efficiency 2 on my shovel, as well as sweeping edge 3 on my sword. I worked on clearing out this area for a melon farm, made this 2x2 of water, planted the melons, and then made a second row and planted more melons in it. I farmed all the sugarcane again, turned it into paper, traded it with the villagers, and headed back into the nether. I started heading to the nether fortress, trapped the strider into one of the pillars again, and started heading back up into the fortress. I farmed blazes for a little while, for some blaze rods, and by the end of it, I actually had 23. I headed back home, and actually had to deal with a phantom for the first time in the world, but the cats scared them away, so I was actually fine. I turned my blaze rods into blaze powder, and used it to turn my ender pearls into eyes of ender. I made some more golden apples, and once again headed back into the nether. There, I headed into the warp forest and worked on killing some endermen for some more ender pearls. After a while, I headed back to home again and farmed all of my wheat, traded it with this villager, and went to bed. Day 120, I bought a mending book, made another lectern, and worked on getting a good trade with this villager. After accidentally hitting him and a ton of attempts, I finally got infinity out of him, which I really needed. So I headed back home, farmed some wheat, and all of the sugarcane again, and turned it into paper again. Then I farmed all the sugarcane surrounding my island, turned all of that into paper, sold all of it to this villager, and finally bought an infinity book. I headed back to my tower and put infinity on my bow, then I put mending on my axe, and threw this eye of ender to see which direction it would go and what direction I would have to head in the morning. But before I embarked on the adventure, I went to bed and got ready for the next 10 days.
What do you think of that?
Day 121. The day started off with me throwing Eyes of Enders and following them so that I could hopefully find the way to the portal. On the way, I found this desert and saw those buildings in the distance. I was hoping that it was a desert temple, but when I got there, I realized it was just a village. I threw another Eye of Ender to make sure I was going in the right direction. I rode past this village to my left, and then I came across this Badlands in the distance and made sure I was going in the right direction. When I was in the Badlands though, I threw another Eye of Ender and realized that I actually passed the fortress. There was actually a cave inside this mountain. I tied my horse to a post that was from an abandoned mineshaft and went to bed. Day 122, I headed into the cave and tried to find the portal. I got a little bit of iron and some gold. I did find a zombie spawner though, which will definitely give me more XP than my other spawners. The spawner also had diamond horse armor and also this lure 2 book, which I can put on my fishing rod. After heading further into the cave, I threw an Eye of Ender and saw that once again I went past the portal. I started to make a strip mine to try and find the portal. I threw a pearl into the mine to make sure I was still going in the right direction and started strip mining in the way that it went. I carved out this little area to throw another pearl and looked for which direction that went. After an even longer time, I had to throw another one, and it changed my direction into mining again. And honestly, as soon as I was about to give up and head home, I ended up mining straight into the stronghold. The best part about it is that I mined straight into the portal room. It only had 3 eyes filled in though. I kept exploring the stronghold and didn't really find all that much except for this golden apple. But then I ran into this library, which had this Lure 3, Sharpness 3 book, and replaced it for this Lure 2 book. I also cut down a few of the bookshelves for some books, but then after running around for a little while longer, I ran into this even bigger library, which had these 2 enchanted books and one being power 4. Then I opened this chest and saw that it had a looting 2 book, which was really lucky because I really needed that for my sword. I also found another zombie spawner, which was nice. It had 2 name tags, another golden apple, as well as another saddle. Then I built back up to the surface, and once I got there, I built a tower to mark the location of the portal, and then ended the day. Day 124, I headed back home, and once I got back home, I tied back up my horse, then put looting 2 on my sword, and put all the rest of the books in this chest. Afterwards, I started to smelt my gold, sheared all my sheep, turned the wool into beds, and headed into the nether. I started mining for some netherite with the beds, and actually managed to find more ancient debris and more, but once I ran out of beds, I headed back to the portal. I cooked the netherite and turned it into a netherite ingot. Then I put the netherite on my boots and farmed a little bit of wheat, turned it into bread, and used it to breed the villagers again. Afterwards, I went to bed. Day 126 started with me heading towards the pillager tower, and once I got there, I started killing pillagers looking for the captain so that I could get the bad omen effect. After holding the villagers at this choke point again, I got these banners from the side of the tower and finally found the pillager captain to get the bad omen. I headed to the village, and the whole purpose of getting the bad omen was to start a raid at the village so that I could just get some totems of undying and work on trying to kill the ender dragon without the fear of dying. All of the pillagers seemed to come from the mountain on the far side of the village, which meant it was just easy for me to snipe them. That's pretty much how the rest of the rounds went, but I did go to bed right here, and I got super scared after I saw how many hearts this mob did. I got my first totem of undying right here, kept sniping all the pillagers, and low-key almost used my totem of undying like 5 times because of these angry allay looking things. By the end of the raid, I had 5 totems of undying, 5 saddles, and a whole bunch of emeralds. I headed back home right away, placed all the banners on the tower, then had to kill some cows and had to farm all of my sugarcane to make some books and use them to buy mending 2 books with the hero of the village and my emeralds. I realized I couldn't put mending on my bow, so I put it on my sword and on my silk touch pickaxe instead. I started brewing some awkward potions, then placed another brewing stand and started making more awkward potions, and turned those awkward potions into slow falling potions. After they were brewed, I turned them into longer duration potions and then into splash potions. I carved this pumpkin with some shears so that I could wear it and the enderman in the end wouldn't notice me. Then I organized my inventory and got it ready for the ender dragon fight. I used some excess wood that I had from making the village area and started building the bridge even further out. After I used a whole stack of logs, I went back home and headed into the nether. I went to the warp forest to farm ender pearls so that I can make some eyes of ender and fill in the ender portal. But while I was farming them, I guess I accidentally hit this piglin at some point, which led to me having to face the entire piglin army down here, but I survived through it and unfortunately had to kill a lot of piglins. Once I got 14 pearls though, I headed back home where I saw how much it would cost to repair this bow, turned these pearls into eyes of ender, and headed towards the pillager tower. There, I started farming XP from the pillagers and realized that there were actually 2 ocean monuments within render from each other, which is insanely lucky. After farming for a long while, I hit level 22 and headed back home. Once I got back home, I repaired my bow, killed some phantoms with it, made more slow falling potions, and headed to the end portal. I mined down to the portal, filled it in with the eyes of ender, which is very nerve-wracking because I have fallen into it before, and then I got ready for the next 10 days and tomorrow, where I'll be beating the ender dragon. Day 131, the last day of this series, I wasted no time and jumped straight into the ender portal. Once I got into the end, I mined up to go fight the ender dragon. The first priority in the fight is to destroy the end crystals so that the dragon can't regain its health. So I built up to the top of the obsidian tower and destroyed the first end crystal. Because there were 10 more end crystals, I had to repeat this process another 9 times, but not all of the obsidian towers are as big, and because I had slow falling potions, it made it easier to bounce from one tower to the next. I also used water buckets rather than building up with blocks because I didn't have enough blocks to build up to all the towers. Once I destroyed the second end crystal, I headed to the next tower, which was taller. Once again, I used the water bucket to get up the tower, quickly blew that one up since there was no cage around it to protect it, and did the same with the 4th end crystal, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and almost did the same with the last one, except the dragon decided to fly into me and fly me off to the side. But thankfully, I was okay because of my slow falling potions. So I kept going up the tower and blew up the final end crystal inside the cage. The only thing left then was to kill the dragon itself, so I started off by shooting it, then moved on to hitting it with a sword, which was going well until it turned to face me and dealt quite a bit of damage. But then I just readjusted to the side and kept hitting it with the sword. Once it took off, it flew me to the side again, but once again, because of the slow flying potions, I was fine. I kept shooting at the dragon with the bow, but didn't do a lot because my aim was terrible. The dragon did end up landing again, and once again I hit it with a sword, but this time it didn't face me, so I was able to hit it with a sword the entire time it was landed. After it took off though, it was super low, so I just started hitting it more with the bow and finished it off with my bow. It had been a while since I watched the last end dragon that I killed, so it was very cool to watch this one explode and drop all of the XP. After I grabbed all of the levels, which got me up to level 67, I built up to this gateway and threw my ender pearl into it. The next objective was to get an elytra, so I started killing endermen to get ender pearls and heading through the end islands. And after traveling for honestly not that long, I ran into a floating ship and end tower. So I started building over to it and threw an ender pearl to try and get there faster, but unfortunately the ender pearl landed and I uncrouched, sending me falling into the end and unfortunately dying, losing the world. Just like the last worlds though, I already have a new one made and I'm working on releasing that soon, so I hope you can still look forward to that. Thank you to everyone who has been here at any point throughout the series, and I'll see you all in World 4.